All right, good morning, all, and welcome to the preview of tonight's games. And we've got 8 games tonight. There are 4 games per board, and that is the new rule. The boards that I use, that's it. There is no room for extra games. I won't be squashing games in. I also won't be, really stretching it out either if there's only 2 or 3 games. But it forces me to keep everything the same from day to day rather than go, well, I could fit 6. I can fit 6 on the board. I don't want to be doing that this year. And so I got the tape. It's not ink, this is tape. Got the tape for these boards to make sure that I couldn't do that again. First up, we have the Boston Bruins and the Dallas Stars. This is, of course, where I mention in these previews, yes, my favorite teams I'll usually have early in the previews. And I see that as one of two things. One, it's fun to talk about teams I like first thing in the morning. And two, if you're not a fan of Boston and Dallas, you can use the timestamps I throw into the video description, or into the comment section, I should say, and you can just skip past it. So there's that. 49, 24, and 8 was Boston's record this past season. On the road, they were 20, 15, and 6. They were not great on the road during the regular season. Postseason, pretty good, but during the regular season, it was bad. It was at home they made hay last year. October, they were 7, 3, and 2. So Boston had a pretty solid start to the year. On the other side, Dallas, 43, 32, and 7. At home, they were 24, 14, and 3, although towards the end of the regular season, their road record got better. Their home record kind of dipped. And it was a bizarro world where Dallas seemed to be better on the road than at home. October, they were 6 and 5. And for a lot of last year, I was concerned that the slide into mediocrity was going to happen again. They benefited greatly from the fact that it took fewer points in the West to make the playoffs, because they were actually 1 point better than they were the year before. But based on the fact they made the playoffs, there are a lot of people that went, "Oh, they're getting better," and I thought, no, it's just rest of the West has kind of dipped, and it's easier to get into the playoffs. I'm not trying to say they weren't good, but offensively they were lousy. Both of the games between these teams went to overtime last year, and they both won 1. So both Boston and Dallas, they're 1-0-1 against each other. Marchand, the leading scorer for Boston, 36 goals, 64 assists for him. Pastrnak, 38 goals, 43 assists, 81 points for him. Bergeron, 32 goals, 47 assists, 79 points for him. So your top 3 scorers, very predictable with Boston, and very predictable with the Dallas Stars as well. Tyler Seguin, 33 goals, 47 assists. Alex Radulov, 29 goals, 43 assists. And Jamie Benn, who had a down year by his standards, 27 goals, 26 assists, only 53 points. So Dallas will be looking for a bounce-back year from him. And, of course, the addition of Pavelski and what that's going to do for them. I don't expect a lot of goals from Pavelski this year. I expect about 20, 25. Because that 37 he had last year, that's not really his usual. So I don't expect that from him this year. Starting goalies, likely Tuukka Rask and Ben Bishop. Power play percentages, 25.9% for Boston, 21.03% for Dallas. And penalty killing percentages, 79.92% for Boston, 82.77% on the penalty kill for Dallas. So Boston's power play was better last year. Dallas's penalty kill was better. It's basically a saw-off. I'm expecting a very good game, a very interesting and entertaining game. And for people wondering, I don't really care who wins. First game of the year, I just don't want to see anybody get hurt. I want to see an entertaining game. I'd like to see some goals. But with those 2 goalies, not too many. So we'll see how that turns out for me. Next up, Montreal. So the Habs are in against Carolina. That game starts at 7 o'clock Eastern. All times that I put on the board are Eastern. So 8:30 Eastern for that Dallas-Boston game. 7 o'clock Eastern for Carolina at home against Montreal. Carolina will be looking to start another year of storm surges. I would imagine there will be storm surges. They haven't confirmed or denied one way or the other. I understand that Williams is gone from the team, and he was the one that kind of started the whole thing, but I would expect them to be back this year. They're just too good of a PR item to just jettison. Montreal was 44, 30, and 8 last year. Carolina 46, 29, and 7. So Montreal won 2 less games than Carolina last year and finished 3 points behind them. And yet the way we talk about these teams is Carolina is up here and Montreal's down here, and that's not reality. So yes, Carolina went on a run to Final Four. and this is kind of where things get a little bit tricky. Montreal was a pretty good team last year and had a really, really good record. They just were in the East where it was harder to make the playoffs. On the road, Montreal was 19-18-4. They'll be looking to improve their road record a little bit this year. Home record for Carolina, 24-13-4. So Carolina, 24 times last year, won at home. And a lot of those would have involved storm surges. In October, both teams won 6 games. Montreal 6-3-2. Carolina 6-5-1. Carolina won 2 out of 3 matchups between these teams last year. And so Carolina definitely will be favored at home tonight. If you're looking for an upset anywhere, I might be tempted to take Montreal tonight. It just feels like Montreal has something to prove this year. And Nick Suzuki, keep an eye on him in his debut. Max Domi led this team in scoring last year, 28 goals, 44 assists, 72 points. Tatar, 25 goals, 33 assists, 58 points. And Drouin had 18 goals, 35 assists, 53 points. And despite all the talk about Drouin, he's still there. Aho, 30 goals, 53 assists, 83 points. Pardon me. Teravainen, 21 goals, 55 assists, 76 points. And Williams. We'll see whether or not he decides to play this year. I would imagine if he does, Carolina will be his first choice. 23 goals, 30 assists. With totals like that at age 37, somebody somewhere will take a flyer on him. Price and Mrazek are very likely to be the starters tonight. I can't see any situation where Carey Price is not your opening night starter, minus injury. Power play percentages, this is where things get anemic. 13.2% for Montreal last year. 13.25% if you want to be exact. And on the Carolina side, 17.81%. Neither of these teams were great on the power play last year. Penalty kill, they were better there. 80.91% for Montreal. 81.59% for Carolina. So Carolina, whose special teams were middling last year, still much better than what Montreal got done. If they can bring that power play up, they're in the playoffs. They get a little more consistency from Drouin, they're in the playoffs. They really don't need to do a whole lot. When Max Domi said this summer, you just need a little bit from everybody and they're a playoff team, he wasn't lying. Absolutely 100% truth right there. All right, next up, Winnipeg. What do we expect from Winnipeg this year? If you said probably playoffs, maybe, you'd be in line with me. Now, if you're still a believer that, hey, these guys are going to prove people wrong and this blue line's going to be better than people think, a guy like Tucker Poolman can be a surprise, and Heinola could be a fantastic rookie. Love the optimism. They were 47-30-5 last year. Now, they start off tonight against the Rangers, a team they were trade partners with a few times, so don't be too surprised if you watch this game, if you see a lot of isolated shots on Pionk and a lot of shots on Trouba and comparisons being made, which would not be fair to Pionk, but these things are going to happen. 32-36-14 was the record for the New York Rangers, and they're looking to get better. How much better? That's where the debate comes in. On the road, Winnipeg 22-18-1 last year. The Rangers were 18-14-9 at home. 7-4-1 was the record for Winnipeg last year in October, whereas the Rangers were 4-7-1. So opposite records there. And Winnipeg won both matchups between these teams last year. So Winnipeg should be favored in this, and yet, again, if you're looking for a place where you might see somewhat of an upset, and it wouldn't be entirely surprising, you've got Panarin for the Rangers, you've got Kakko for the Rangers, and you've got Trouba for the Rangers, all making their debuts. 2 of them debuts as Rangers, and 1 of them an NHL debut. And so there's a lot to be excited about if you're a Rangers fan right now. Blake Wheeler, 20 goals, 71 assists, 91 points for him. To lead Winnipeg in scoring. Mark Scheifele, 38 goals, 46 assists, 84 points. The remarkably consistent Scheifele. Kyle Connor, 34 goals, 32 assists, 66 points. On the Rangers side, Mika Zibanejad led the way last year, 30 goals, 44 assists, 74 points. Chris Kreider, 28 goals, 24 assists, 52 points. And Buchnevich, I've put on the board. Zuccarello technically was their third scorer. He's gone. 21 goals, 17 assists, 38 points for Buchnevich. And yeah, so for the Rangers, we'll see if he can take the next step as well. A lot of good young players in the Rangers lineup, and we'll be seeing if adding Panarin, adding Trouba, if now they're ready to contend for a playoff spot. Hellebuck and Lundqvist. Hellebuck is, last time I looked, probable, and Lundqvist was confirmed. I'm not worried too much about the starting goalies the first couple of nights of the year. I'll try to narrow down on the starting goalies for sure once we get a couple weeks into the year and teams really start using their rotation of goaltenders. Power play percentages, tale of two cities on that one. Winnipeg 24.8%, the Rangers 19.38%. Penalty kills close, 79.2% for Winnipeg, 78.2% for the Rangers. Overall, the Rangers are going to be looking to improve their numbers pretty much across the board. Lundqvist didn't have a fantastic season by his standard last year either. He will be looking to make amends this year. And even though nobody beats Father Time is undefeated, Lundqvist is sure darn going to try this year. So we'll see how that turns out for him. Next up, okay, Florida. The Battle of Florida. Again, these teams are no strangers to one another, and their fan bases, if they've watched the preseason games, are going to be kind of probably tired of it at this point. The Florida Panthers, of course, 36, 32, and 14. They greatly underachieved last year, but the offense was there. All of their forwards played pretty darn well. It was defensively, they had issues. Their goaltending just never bailed them out. So the goaltending's been completely revamped for this year. Luongo retired, Reimer's gone, and in comes Bobrovsky, and Montembeault is going to be the backup this year. On the road, Florida was 16, 19, and 6 last year, so that's not good enough. And in October, they were 2, 4, and 3. October sunk them, absolutely. You win some games in October, Florida would have had a little more confidence. You get some goaltending when you need it in other months of the year. Really, in all honesty, Florida's season was just a disaster. Tampa, on the other hand, their disaster waited till the postseason. They were 62, 16, and 4. 62 wins, that's a record. It tied the record. Are they going to go for the record this year, or are they going to pull back and go, you know what, we'll win like 50 and we'll save some energy for the playoffs? I don't think energy was the problem in the playoffs. Overconfidence, I think, was their problem. At home, they were 32, 7, and 2. So, yeah, they only lost 9 at home the entire season. In October, they were 8, 2, and 1. So Tampa, right out of the gate, was the best team in the league, and it was basically almost wire to wire that they were the best team in the league. Tampa Bay won all 4 meetings between them and the Florida Panthers. 2 of those went to extra time, but Tampa still won them. So Florida's going to be looking to rewrite the script right off the bat tonight. And I expect a pretty intense game between these teams. Barkov, 35 goals, 61 assists, 96 points. Huberdeau, 30 goals, 62 assists, 92 points. Those two players need to show these aren't career seasons. They're the new norm. And Hoffman, who's still there, despite rumors all summer he might be on his way out, 36 goals, 34 assists, 70 points. I think if they had got Panarin, Hoffman was gone. When they didn't get Panarin, I think it made it a lot easier to keep him. Kucherov, 41 goals, 87 assists, 128 points. Led Tampa and the league in scoring. Stamkos, 45 goals, 53 assists, 98 points. And Braden Point, who will not be in the lineup tonight, but he's not as far away as we were led to believe when he signed this contract. 41 goals, 51 assists, 92 points. We'll see if he ends up playing this weekend. We were told late October. I don't think it's going to be that long if he's already able to take contact in practices. Bobrovsky and Vasilevsky should be in net. It's going to be a battle, and it should be a fun one. That's a goaltending battle that should be fun all year. Power play percentages. You know what? Florida was good last year on the power play. 26.77%. One of the best in the league. But Tampa, 28.24%. Lethal. Penalty kill. Florida was good there too. 81.3%. And Tampa, 85.02%. So Tampa was fantastic on the special teams. So was Florida. It was 5-on-5. Florida, nope. Goaltending, nope. It was a rough year for them. And now Florida's trying to rewrite things by writing checks to guys like Bobrovsky. And I think they did plan to get Bobrovsky and Panarin. I think they either Panarin rebuffed their advances, or they just looked at the amount of money it was going to cost and said, why don't you go to New York? That's probably the best decision for everybody. So there you go. And now I have to do something I haven't done in a while. Change boards. Now, also in the 7 o'clock Eastern start time, Pittsburgh and Buffalo. So that's 4 games that are going to start at the same time. This is where, for me, taking notes and watching games and stuff, it's going to be a little trickier tonight than it was last night. But I will tell you people this. I can't watch everything at once, but I will watch as much hockey as possible. Anytime hockey's on, I'm watching it. Buffalo was 33, 39, and 10 last year, and Buffalo fans want that to stop. They're done. That's it. We want a winning record. We want a team in the playoffs, and we want it yesterday. On the road, they were 12, 24, and 5. Miserable on the road. This is a really good test for them off the start because Pittsburgh was pretty good at home last year. In October, Buffalo was 6, 4, and 2. Yeah, October and November were good months for the Buffalo Sabres. Pittsburgh, 44, 26, and 12 last year, or as everybody else has been calling it, a disaster. And I get it. You get swept in the first round, everybody goes, oh, disaster, that's it, they're done. Set fire to them, they're done. I don't see it that way with Pittsburgh because it's Pittsburgh. At home, they were 23, 14, and 4, and in October, they were 6, 2, and 2. At certain points last year, it looked like Pittsburgh could miss the playoffs, and I remember people like, oh, they're done. And then when they made the playoffs, everybody was grumbling that didn't like Pittsburgh, and then when they got swept, back came the they're done chance. I don't believe it. Here's the interesting thing. Buffalo won 2 out of 3 meetings with Pittsburgh last year. So, yeah, Buffalo didn't have a great year, but Pittsburgh, I like playing Pittsburgh. Jack Eichel led the Buffalo Sabres, 28 goals, 54 assists, 82 points last season. Sam Reinhart, 22 goals, 43 assists, 65 points. And anybody who calls Sam Reinhart a bust doesn't pay attention. Skinner will be looking to prove that they didn't overpay on his contract and that he can get 40 goals back-to-back years. He had 40 goals, 23 assists, 63 points for Buffalo. Pittsburgh's leading scorer, of course, was Sid the Kid. Act surprised. 35 goals, 65 assists, 100 points. Phil Kessel, who's gone. I put Kessel and Galchenyuk on the board just to show, that they've switched spots. They were both key guys for their teams last year. Kessel, 27 goals, 55 assists, 82 points. That moves to Arizona. Jake Gensel, 40 goals, 36 assists, 76 points. Gensel, much like Skinner, looking to prove that 40-goal season was not a fluke. Hutton and Murray, highly likely to be the starters. That being said, I would not be entirely surprised if Buffalo went with Ullmark. Ullmark looked really good during the preseason, so we'll see. Power play percentages, Buffalo lags behind there, 19.49% to 24.56% for Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh has Sidney Crosby. Penalty killing, there, Buffalo's better. 80.93% last year, comparatively speaking to the 79.73% that Pittsburgh had on the penalty kill. This should be a highly competitive game between a team that's supposed to be on their way down, but I don't think anybody's told them that, and a team that's supposed to be on their way up. And yet, I do have some concerns with this team. There are some injury concerns coming into this season on a revamped blue line, and we'll see how that turns out for them, where they don't have Montour, and they also are missing Bogosian. So we'll see how things work out for Buffalo. It'll be a very, very interesting year. Next up, Minnesota and Nashville. You know what sucks is when these teams are against each other and it's in Nashville, because then the logos aren't facing each other. I don't like that. So they're facing away from each other. It's 8 o'clock Eastern. I promise they're not running away from each other. These guys are going to collide, and it's going to be a meeting between Kevin Fiala and Michael Granlund. I don't anticipate a blood feud in this one at all. But it's a divisional matchup, and Minnesota is trying to prove you guys are underrating us, including me. I'm underrating them. I have to be corrected with a Minnesota victory over Nashville tonight. 37, 36, and 9 was Minnesota's record last year. On the road, they were 21, 18, and 2. They were actually better on the road than they were at home. And they were 7, 3, and 2 in October. They had a good October last year. Whereas Nashville, they were fantastic out of the gate. They ended up going to a record of 47, 29, and 6. At home, they were 25, 14, and 2. They were fantastic at home to start the season. They ended up 9 and 3 in October. And they looked pretty darned unstoppable at a lot of points last year. And I remember Nashville being number 1 on the power rankings. I want to say 3 weeks in a row, but they were number 1 and Tampa was number 2 as far as I remember. Nashville won all 4 meetings with the Minnesota North Stars. I'm dating myself with that reference. Minnesota Wild. 4 straight meetings won by Nashville. Minnesota's going to be looking to rewrite that script tonight. Leading scorers, Parise led the way for Minnesota. It goes without saying that they need a healthy Zach Parise if they're going to make any kind of headway this year. 28 goals, 33 assists. Eric Stahl, 22 goals, 30 assists, 52 points. And Suter, 7 goals, 40 assists, 47 points. On the Nashville side of things, Johansson, 14 goals, 50 assists, 64 points. Yossi, 15 goals, 41 assists, 56 points. Forsberg, 28 goals, 22 assists, 50 points for the Nashville Predators. So this should be quite the matchup. Both teams likely to play a very strong defensive game, and behind them, Devan Dubnyk and Pekka Rinne. I don't see any reason to think that Saros is going to be the starter yet, but we'll see what we're talking about come, say, February, whether or not Saros has taken over that starting job. It feels like this is the year that could happen, that Rinne ends up taking a lesser role. Power play percentages, well, Minnesota's much better there, and if you're a Nashville fan, you know this. Probably want me to skip it. Last year's power play, Minnesota 20.33%. Nashville 12.94%. Historically bad. So as bad as Montreal's was, Montreal's looked deadly compared to Nashville's, which is sad. Penalty kill, Minnesota 81.67% and Nashville 82.07%. So both teams were solid on the penalty kill. The difference was Minnesota had a power play, Nashville dreamt of one. Adding Duchesne, we'll see if that helps things. Certainly, Ottawa had a decent power play last year, and Duchesne spent a majority of the season there, so maybe he can bring some of that magic to Nashville. Just leave all the rest of the Ottawa stuff behind. Everything else, just because Melnick will pop up just out of nowhere. All right, moving along. Calgary. The Flames in against the Colorado Avalanche. The Flames and Avalanche renew their rivalry from last year's playoffs. Let me fix this. That's going to drive me nuts if I don't fix it. All right. Flames and Avalanche will be looking to renew their rivalry tonight. And the Flames should have no problem getting up for this game. So Calgary's talked a lot during the summer about how we probably took Colorado too lightly. We got to come back. We got to be more intense. If I'm Colorado, I'm looking to go, really? Because I thought we just beat you. So this could be a fun one, and it could be one of those ones that sees a lot of stick work. Looking at you, Matthew Tkachuk. 50-25-7 was the record for Calgary this past season. On the road, they were 24-15-2, and in October, they were 7-5-1. Kind of a iffy number for October there, but they still had a pretty solid season overall. Colorado 38-30-14. They got better as the season went along, and then going into the playoffs, getting Makar. That's why there's a lot of people taking Makar to be Rookie of the Year this year. He just seamlessly fit into their lineup in the playoffs. They were 21-14-6 at home, and in October they were 7-3-2. And of course, things didn't fall apart for Colorado until December, and then they had to dig their way out of that mess. Calgary won all 3 meetings between these teams last year. So Colorado looking to win their home opener, and Calgary looking to say, hey, these guys beat us in the playoffs. They're not beating us this year. Johnny Gaudreau, 36 goals, 63 assists, 99 points. On the other side of the ice, the leading scorer, Nathan MacKinnon, 41 goals, 58 assists, 99 points. 2 guys who should have had 100 points. If they had, we would have had 7 100-point scorers. But, because I'm pretty sure we had 5 this past season. It was 5 or 6. Pretty sure. Anyways, Monahan, 34 goals, 48 assists, 82 points. And Lindholm, 27 goals, 51 assists, 78 points. Elias Lindholm's going to be looking to prove that wasn't any kind of a fluke, and that he can put up point-a-game seasons repeatedly this year. Rantanen, 31 goals, 56 assists, 87 points. Landeskog, 34 goals, 41 assists, 75 points for Colorado, and that rounds out your scoring for both teams. Riddick, expected to be the starter. The Flames have been talking up Riddick a lot during the preseason, and even going into the preseason, talking him up a lot. And so a lot is expected of him. Yes, they picked up Talbot. I don't think they have any intention of Talbot starting a lot of games. And Grubauer, of course, in Colorado. That pressure is now on Grubauer to be a starter in the NHL. He's never really had that before. How will he respond? Power plays. Actually, Colorado's was better last year. Calgary, 19.27%. Colorado, 22.03%. Penalty kill. Calgary's mildly better there, 79.67%. Colorado, 78.68%. So, going to be a really, really testy game tonight between these two. So if you watched Vegas and San Jose last night, you're like, where can I find a bunch of guys punching each other in the face tonight to match what we watched last night? And I'd go with this one. There wasn't nearly as much punching between San Jose and Vegas last night with Evander Kane being out of there. I think that took the fuse out of that bomb. I do. It was the right. I understand we're still debating it, but I still think that was just done, so you can just not have to worry about that again. Finally, last but not least, the thing to resistance. At 10 o'clock Eastern, which is 7 o'clock my time, Arizona's in Anaheim. Two teams that couldn't score after I've already watched hockey for a few hours. Sometimes that's what's hard to make it to focus on the games, is when you go from these really exciting, intense, games of teams against each other that really don't like each other. There's a lot of scoring, and then you get kind of Arizona and Anaheim, which I don't expect to be any kind of fight fest. Now there's going to be like 300 penalty minutes in it. Anyways, Arizona is looking to finally break through. 39-35-8 this past season. Respectable record, right? And on the road, they were 19-18-4. In October, they were 6-5. And the lack of scoring cost them the playoffs. Arizona fans will tell you, no, it isn't. Shannon did a video on Arizona was playing well, and then they lost. Shannon jinxed them, which is, all right, that's fine. That's fair. On the Anaheim side, they were 35-37-10 on the season. At home, 19-14-8. So 19 wins on the road for Arizona out of 41 games. 19 wins at home for Anaheim in 41 games. They need to improve those records. 5-6-2 was the record for Anaheim in October, and they probably should have fired their coach well before they did. That's something that kind of gets forgotten. People remember they were anemic, couldn't score, and that they missed the playoffs. But yeah, if they'd fired their coach sooner in this massive losing streak they had, who knows? They might have still been in the hunt, because they weren't that far behind Colorado even after that mess. Arizona won 3 out of 5 meetings between these teams last year. So look for a little bit of intensity from the players that know each other really well. Leading scorers, Keller, 14 goals, 33 assists, 47 points. I said they had anemic offenses. Ekman-Larsson, 14 goals, 30 assists, 44 points. And there's Galchenyuk, 19 goals, 22 assists, 41 points. And I use this to point something out. So Kessel goes from Pittsburgh to Arizona. Galchenyuk goes from Arizona to Pittsburgh. And people say, well, look at the offense that Kessel can provide. And yes, 82 points for Kessel, 41 for Galchenyuk. But when you look at the goals, there's only an 8-goal difference between the two. You can say Kessel's not passing to the same level of player in Arizona that he was in Pittsburgh. His assists are going to go down, and that's why some people are still on the fence when it comes to Arizona. We'll see. The last time Kessel was expected to be a leader was in Toronto, and on the Anaheim side of things, Getzlaf, 14 goals, 34 assists, 48 points. Silverberg, 24 goals, 19 assists, 43 points, means that Anaheim didn't suffer the same indignity that Arizona did, where they didn't have a single 20-goal scorer. Raquel, 18 goals, 25 assists. Raquel has to have a bounce-back year. 43 points is nowhere near what he should be, and 18 goals. He should be a 30-goal scorer. Kemper and Gibson are expected to be the starting goaltenders. We still are not entirely sure why they picked up Comrie in Arizona. My feeling is Ronta's probably in rougher shape than they're telling us. But again, that's how the whole injury thing in the NHL works. They don't tell us anything. Power play percentages, 16.28% for Arizona, 16.98% for Anaheim. Not good for either team. Penalty kill, that's a whole other story with Arizona. 84.96%. And remember, last year, at the start of the year, they were scoring more shorthanded than they were allowing power play goals. It was crazy. 79.7% penalty kill for Anaheim. So keep an eye on things for Arizona and see if we watch somebody get hot off the start of the season. And who does Phil Kessel have amazing chemistry with? And can Clayton Keller bounce back from the sophomore jinx? That's what happened to him last year. That's where we'll put it. If he has down numbers again this year, we have something more problematic we're looking at, especially with that long-term contract. But we'll see, right? Okay, 8 games. You guys are all ready? I'm ready. It's day 2. NHL's back. And here we go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. And hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through you just happened upon this video. I will talk to you again soon.